Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Today I'm going to be talking about probably the easiest thing you can do to improve your code without actually doing that much extra work, and that's using packages. Why should you use package? Well, first of all, nobody is actually impressed if you're able to code everything out yourself. If you're this kind of person that just really wants to do everything from the ground up and you make it your goal to have every single line of code that you wrote and that you've learned how to do it and you know how to do every single thing optimally, um, I guarantee you that nobody's going to be that impressed with you. You're not going to get really anything out of it. You're much more likely to make errors or just have a difficulty just dealing with it, because you're just essentially forcing yourself to do all the work when there's already tons of work that is already available for free. There's all kinds of code online. And so really working with that code that other people have used and built packages to help you do whatever task you're just going to do be way more efficient than you just trying to do it yourself. And you'll just find out that there's just no comparison. If there's one thing you can do to just save yourself the amount of work, if even you're not an expert at whatever you're trying to do, but you want to have a really good model, learning how to use packages is going to be the number one way to get you there. Whether you're doing stock trading, whether you're doing RNA-seq analysis, clinical stuff, or it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Chances are that somebody else has tried to do something very similar before, and packages are the way to actually get that. So we're going to go, this video is going to talk a little bit more about how to actually use these packages. We're going to be looking at Github. We're going to be looking at how to actually, what to look out for, what kinds of things you should know when you're doing packages, how to read through package documentation, how to actually install that a couple ways. So I hope you learned something. Let me know if you do. Let me know if you don't. Smash that like and subscribe, of course, and let's get to it.
All right, so I'm here on github.com. If you don't know, GitHub is a pretty valuable resource. It's basically a repository. If you just think it's a cloud for people to put their code, and you can identify and download code. Most projects from PyTorch, TensorFlow, a lot of projects will have their GitHub code related on this website. So it's a really great place to look. So like we can search for anything here. I was just thinking I have to look for just stock or stocks. And really, so this is the idea is that, you could sit here and try to make your own stock picking code and really try to do all the work from scratch. But what might be a lot easier is just identifying, okay, what do I know? Well, I personally am probably the best with Python, so I would go ahead and click that. And then just really look through all of these and just identify which ones might look good and just try to figure out, just getting an idea. So I don't know, let's look at just a random one here. This is in some language that I understand. Looks like Chinese, but I will go something else. So maybe the stock price prediction using LSTM. And so this is actually a good, I guess, first one. This is really not that big. It seems to be 6 years ago, so it might be a little bit outdated. I'd actually be kind of surprised that this works. We'll kind of go back over this in a second, but you might want to look for something that's more recent because these packages tend to kind of break over time. Eventually, in 20 years, every single thing is going to be outdated. Every package is going to be like broken. But here, the first thing you should look for when you open a package on GitHub is this README file. The README file will usually just be here, and the idea of this README file is it's supposed to be everything that you need to kind of run the package, and you'll find out very quickly that different developers will add different things here. And so, for instance, like if I just go to another one, some of them will be, yeah, this is a great one. So this one, it seems to be like a lot more built out. And this is what you really want to look for is anytime, because developers are lazy, I got to be honest. Developers are super lazy people. And so anytime that they actually write something that's like a human readable form, anytime they actually say, they actually write something instead of just more code, you should really read it. So this involves like any kind of documentation. Just look for anything that's text. That's not just code. And so that will, again, always be in this, there always should be a README file that's best practice. Looks like we got another requirement. So this is requirements of the list of packages that you'd have to install based on, these are the packages. So these are the ones you want to look for if they're outdated or whatnot. Again, this is 3 years ago. This might be a little bit outdated as well. The second thing I'm trying to look for, basically you want to start to read through some of these codes and some of these folders. I like to go through and just kind of and read through these Python codes since you should be looking at a language that you kind of understand. And so, okay, this says there's some package okay, so what you want to look for here, this is actually the sort of where you start looking for. packages that refer to itself. So, for instance, you see data processor here, base bars. That was exactly what we had just looked at when I was, man, I didn't even see this one. I think I saw bar sample. So we said from data processor base bar. So you can see that we actually, inside GitHub, we can identify where this actual package came from. Again, we got a data processor and then base bars here. And so this is the actual class, and so we can actually read through this and say, okay, well, what does this class actually take in? And this kind of goes back to your fundamental Python stuff. It's kind of, it is a little verbose, and it is kind of hard to just look at this kind of stuff and read it. But you can see, you can identify which of these, let's see, PCA auto, and so you can identify where from each of these individual packages, so like sklearn and matplotlib, those are different packages. But it looks like we have some data processing. This is part of this internal package. Looks like this model autoencoder, input autoencoder. And so this is the kind of code you can really go through every single line of code that these are working for, and really understand. So I'm really kind of just putting this right here to talk about how you can actually look at an entire, like you should be able to go through an entire package based on reading through each of these codes and in each of these folders. And what you should have a good idea, or it's going to just kind of take some time to just read through each of these and really figure out what do you actually want. But all the information is here, and you should definitely look at these packages before really trying to do your own thing, because it's to either just get your own ideas, or maybe like really just essentially use their code as much as possible and have a great algorithm without doing any work. And so I'm trying to look for another example here. I'll get back in a second. All right, so I found another package. What I was looking for is one of these IPYB files, and if you're looking for Python code, this can be really helpful because this is what's called a Jupyter file or Colab notebook file. And basically, it's just an interactive path that you can open. You can click this link here. I guess we'll go ahead and do it. And this is for the QLib package, which I did a video about. I'm probably not going to do any more videos about it, but you can read through the packages and read through and everything and identify what actually might be useful, and figure out from there how to actually do what you want to do. But basically, you can physically run these codes. So I like looking for these IPYB files. It's very interactive, and you can kind of just go through. Usually they have a sort of code. So what you want to look for, again, is the IPYB files and these texts, any kind of machine-written text. And then just go through line by line and just identify every line what exactly your package is doing. And then from there, you want to figure out what is the minimum amount of work to do what I need to do. And so next, we'll go talk a little bit more about that. All right, so once you found the package that you actually want to use, we'll talk about how to actually get it. There's a couple different ways. If it's a good package or if it's a useful package, it'll have like a kind of nice installation. So all you need to do is open. We'll kind of go through all this in a second, but we'll show you the different ways first. You would just need to run this in a command line, and that should install you, and then you should be able to run these packages. The other way, well, there's a couple other ways. The other one, you can just download the entire code here. And this is kind of different, so you aren't actually installing the package, but you can still go into each of these Python codes and kind of just kind of goes back to getting what you want to really get. So if you can download this as zip, or you can run a git command in your command line. I don't think I'll do that, but we'll go ahead and go over installing it here, and then we'll also talk about how to actually download the package yourself and go through it. Get both those ways of getting the package set up. So not every package will have this. All right, so I got here. All right, so we're looking at here on the left side the package we want to use, and on the right side we just got a command line. Just using the Ubuntu boot. You can either get this, or you can just maybe even use PowerShell, AWS, or any kind of command line. I'm not going to go too much into that, but basically we just identified we want to be able to run this shit. So you're going to notice one problem here. I'll actually just make a test stock folder. So we're going to go to this test stock folder that I just made. We're going to try to run this. It's probably not going to work because this is the first step that you'll actually, you probably can't do everything. Actually, this one might actually work because I was thinking it might not because pip3 is my actual Python 3. So I'm going to do this Well, actually, I guess it says it's I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess it's already maybe satisfied. User installation because package sites packages. So now we'll see if we can run this out. Can I go ahead and do, so all we did was run this command. It looks like we could have just done pip2 or pip3, but I'll go ahead and start Python. Actually, I'm sorry, this is it looks like use Python 3.7. So let's go Python 3.7. Will that work? And so if I say import pandas as PD, basically I'm just running this, and then from stacks import wrap. So if this runs, this means that we successfully downloaded a package. Hey, actually it worked, which I guess I shouldn't be too surprised about because it should work. So next it's telling us to get this certain stock here. So what we can do is we can just identify, it looks like this is just a stock. It looks like, I like this kind of package. I'm just kind of pulled up this random package, but this one actually looks like it has some testing data here. The issue here is that this is not saving as a, you gotta just say this here. I just do this. So my bad, yeah. So this is kind of one of the issues too, is you'll come up. So if I quit here now, so I'm going to move this stock test to this current folder. So now that should overwrite it. Is this an actual CSV? That's an actual CSV. Okay, so now I should be able to do this. And so now that we have our data correct, I should be able to run this here. It's not going to run because stock data is not a stock test. Hey, that actually worked. So now we have that. And this says df equals wrap data. This is df. All right. So now what can we do? So now that we have this wrap data, it looks like we can just keep on reading. Unwrap to convert it back to this. So this is a stock data frame. Looks like all functions so work as the same before. So it looks like we can calculate the moving average here, or the RSI. Yeah, so now that this is kind of going to calculate everything we need. So you can see, I mean, I was able to just upload to kind of work with this data package. Again, all I really did was go through and find this installation here. And so this is where it's kind of easier because it actually just worked. I was able to just run this code using my command line here. And then they even had some test data that worked out perfectly that it tells you this is how your data is supposed to work. And I was able to run these functions. Essentially, that's what this package is. And so this would, be how I would start working when I started kind of reading through and figuring out exactly what I want to do with this package. And so this one actually, seems to work out pretty well. This is I'm surprised that all of this is just still working. It looks like actually they did upgrade this 10 days ago. So this actually, I think this is a good package, especially maybe a first one to look at. Just as a preview, it's pretty easy to install over here. So that's kind of the general process that you get, and this is how you get these different packages. All right, so next we're going to talk about a sort of a different way, and that was the much easier way. If it works like that, honestly, you just want to go ahead and find the pip installation link, pip install, whatever you got to do. That doesn't always work, and sometimes it's kind of a pain. So what you can do is you can literally just download this entire Git file, and this is going to be like, if somebody kind of knows what they're doing, I bet you they're cringing really hard at this because this is not very efficient. This is not really the best way to do it. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we can just actually, I'll go back up and we'll extract this whole folder to the desktop. and we're just going to move that into what we just had over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say move RF. Actually, I don't know if we do the RF. MNTC, basically just go into the desktop. So look for stock stats master. And so we're moving that to the current folder. Now we got pretty much, so all we did again is we managed to go, let's pull this up here. I'm not looking at YouTube. What we're able to do is just essentially code here and go to download zip. And so after we go to code download zip, we can move the entire zip file to just some folder. And then if you look at this file, folder, this is going to be the exact same thing as right here. And you can even look at the README yourself. So we'll say more README. And that's literally what you're going to see right here. It'll even tell you this is how you install it. And so now it's like if you think about it, you don't need to install it the same way you did. You could, and I've done this before, and it's just sometimes it's just so hard. We'll talk about this in a second. It's just so hard to install these packages. People think that the hard part is doing all this math or whatever. The hard part is half the time just how to install the stuff you actually need. And so a lot of times when you try to run these pip installs, or it doesn't even have a pip install, it just kind of has the code. What you want to do is you want to go through, and you can be able to actually run this. And the same way you can say like import, and if you say Python stock stats, let's see what this does. Will this actually work? Well, I don't know. It's not printing anything, so let's. I probably should have checked that. What's it actually going to do? So it doesn't look like this is actually gonna. It might just be background stuff. I think this is actually called another method, so it's not actually gonna point anything out itself. Maybe I probably should have looked into this before, but if you have a setup file, maybe not. So this is a pretty. They got a lot of stuff in this package. I wonder what this test does. This is just all defining functions and stuff. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we could just do this. This is just installing and stuff. So this one's kind of focused on mainly getting you to install it through pip, which I guess is kind of fine. That's probably what you should do. You should definitely try just install it first from the source, however it tells you. There should be some installation link. Just try to follow it. If you're having issues, then you go here to the issues tab. You can just make an issue. Good developers are they're actually kind of excited, I guess, to hear people actually interacting with their code and stuff. And a lot of times you can find installation if other people are having similar issues here. But basically, when you download the code here, you're just downloading. You essentially can download the entire package, and there's ways that you can work with it. Even if you can't necessarily get this installation, I actually did this from a QLab video. If you notice, I didn't install it from the source, or at least I noticed I had some problems installing it from the source, so I actually did decide to just download the QLab itself. And so, I mean, it's really not necessary for this one. I guess I didn't entirely show you what I was hoping to show you with how easy it was. Maybe if I put a little bit more time into it. But the main idea is you should try those two different ways. There's one final way, and basically it's essentially the same way as actually downloading this code here. What you'll actually do is, like, if you have so it actually has like a GitHub command line. You'll essentially just say, I want to get this download, and it'll just download it from using the Git command line. And so those are the three ways to really work with packages. First, you always want to look for the installation link and the installation text. They talk about installation. Second of all, you can either you probably should try, honestly, the Git command second. And finally, if that really doesn't work, you can go ahead and download the code and just really try to go through the code yourself. Because if you download this, this file, you should be able to run the packages. And if you really, really need to, you can edit that. But we'll actually talk about now a little bit of some of the problems you'll get packages, and why. If you get something that's just really hard to install, the best thing, honestly, might just be giving up and trying, not necessarily giving up, but trying a different package, because there'll just be some packages that don't work. So as I was just saying, let's talk about sometimes that you get packages, and many that just don't work, especially if they haven't been updated in a while. They haven't been tried on different operating systems. Some dependencies get upgraded. Some packages are depreciated. There's so much stuff that just for whatever reason the package is not going to work. And this kind of actually goes into a lot of tutorials and stuff. Like I think tutorials looking at going through other people's code and seeing what they do to solve a problem and following that and trying to do the same thing. That's a really, really great way to learn code. But you always come across things that will work one day and then the next week they will just not work. And you have a bigger chance of this. The bigger the package and the less that it's maintained, the more likely it is just going to break. Something's just not going to work. And honestly, a good part of my career has really been spending a lot of time trying to figure out packages that ultimately just do not work. And at some point, I realized that there is a value to just learning, to just trying your best to make, if this package is really something you need, trying your best to make it work. And if it doesn't work, sometimes you just have to go on. You just have to find something, or maybe just do it yourself. But a lot of times, the good thing is that usually as packages kind of get outdated, there are constantly new packages that are able to take their place. Second time, I mean, packages are not perfect. They're essentially at some point somebody made them, somebody just like you or me. They spend a lot of time, or maybe they didn't spend that much time, but there are a lot of errors, and there can just be things that are wrong. And so just keep that in mind. I mean, it's I think very easy to just think very formally and just say, well, this has got to be right because everybody uses this package, or this is a really popular package, or this package has always been accurate for me, but if something's updated, and this can be on all sorts of things. If your data changes, if any kind of changes, or even if it doesn't change, there could have just been some kind of error on some certain flag, on some certain argument. And so it's really important to just keep that in mind. Some packages, I just said hard to use. I should really say hard to install. Some are just super, super hard to install. And when that's the case, I think you just really have to. And what I mean by that, it's just always like, there's just there's some operating system, there's some version of Python that you got to use. And so all those things are things to keep in mind. You want to try to put your place to be as identical to the developer as when they had. Sometimes they'll have their specs, but not all the time. Not actually usually. And so you just want to, it can be really, really hard to install these packages. So just be patient, try your best, and at the same time, don't spend too much effort. If there's no single package that warrants spending like half of your life trying to get to work. There's really not. There's always going to be something similar, something that you can use. And so I really encourage, learn about that. You will look at the packages, but also don't get attached to a single one. And finally, it can be a little bit more difficult to understand what these packages are doing. Especially like you'll have to go into different subdirectories and figure out, well, each of these functions are calling. But I think it's really important to understand that and to kind of see where that kind of puts into place, both for improving your own code and for working with it in the future. So anyways, hope you guys learned something. Really appreciate it. Smash that like, subscribe, help me out. Talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed it.